So I didn't make a video last night. I kind of got really busy, but so caught another mouse last night. Now, I think the last video I made was about the mice that escaped. The very first, from the beginning of the project to the mice escaping, I believe, because that was like the other night that happened, or a couple nights ago, that they escaped. And, but so since from that, Bean doesn't come out during the day, which, they're not nocturnal, but it's a safe, mechanism thing to not come out during the daytime. She's, she'll be awake doing things in her log, but that's about it. At nighttime, she would come out, and if the lights were off, she would come out and kind of interact and not really care too much if I was, staring at her, but would run if I went to go do anything else. That since it was last night that I caught the new mouse, and like to say about like midnight, she was caught, or that's at least when I found her when I went in there, and she was in my pantry, and she didn't really move around much under the cup when I went to go put her into the enclosure. She didn't react the way I thought she would. Now, Bean, when she was first put in there, I had her original nest that she was born in, so obviously she went straight into that because that's what she was attached to. And afterwards, when the mice escaped, the two siblings of hers escaped, they shredded it to use it to build up the enclosure to get to the top and get out where the opening was that I had to trap them in there, because they couldn't jump out, but they found a way to climb out. So I got rid of it, which drove Bean nuts. I mean, she was jumping like crazy, ready to leave, when before she didn't really, here and there she went to escape, try to see if she could escape, but after a while she's like, I can't get out because when I jump, I can't make it to the top. And so she kind of stopped, but after, even when the other ones made a way out, she stayed in her log and didn't care. But when I removed it, she went berserk crazy. So I closed up I shut the open part where I was using as a trap and decided to do a different route and not use the enclosure as a trap. So no more would escape. And then I put some things in there, like I had things for when I had my lizard, which is where the log tunnel came from, and the water hole thing came from, was because I had a lizard that I got those things for. And so I had another stick pile thing where it's where they can climb up around it, through it, under it. It's like a pile of sticks. This other weird little hidey hole that's for fish. And then a fake plant in there. And after I did that, calmed right down. Stopped trying to escape, stopped jumping, went into the log, and started roaming around the tunnels and all that. So back to where Bubbles comes in. Put Bubbles in there, and Bubbles did not seem scared at all. She's checking things out. Bean, on the other hand, ran from her. Obviously, they never met, not related in any way, because Bean did not recognize her. Now, Bubbles was interested, and so she tried following her around for a bit. But once Bubbles realized that she was uncomfortable and that she's like, hey, I don't want any problems. I don't want to fight. No, just leave me alone. And so she left Bubbles alone, or Bubbles left Bean alone. And eventually, Bean started going closer to her, and now they share an area together. They sleep together, all of that at this point. So it took about an hour for Bean to go, okay, this mouse isn't gonna hurt me. And but she, Bubbles, not scared at all, and not even less than 24 hours. It hasn't even been 24 hours that I've had her, and she's already interacted with me more than Bean. I can't get Bean to come up to me. Bubbles comes up to me if I have food. If I have food in my hand, now she won't take it, she won't eat it out of my hand, but she'll come up to me, she'll sniff me, sniff the food, go back to like an area that she deemed to be safe, but still out, like she'll be out in the open, but still like in a spot where she feels like she's safe, like at like where I can't get to her, even though I could. But then I put, you know, chips around where she would, you know, get a little bit of taste to know, oh, that's good. And because I was holding chips, and she would sniff them. I put different type of materials, paper, polyester, like, you know, different type of materials for them to make a nest out of, which they started to. And I put my arm on that, trying to hand the chip. And after I take my arm out, Bubbles immediately goes up there sniffing all the spots where my arm and hand, because I'm not wearing long sleeve, and immediately took the bedding, the polyester that my scent was on, and brought it into their log tunnel where they were starting their nest. So I feel like that is a good sign, and that's a sign that I'm getting closer to actually being accepted. The part that really shocks me is the fact that I've had Bean for a few days now, and I didn't get anywhere near progress. The only progress I've got at this point is that if I'm sitting down, not moving, she'll come out still and do things like drink, eat, whatever. And as long as I don't move, she's fine. That's the only progress I've got with Bean. So I've got more progress with this older mouse than I, have with Bean. And you could tell this mouse is quite old. Like, I don't think she's gonna die anytime soon. But you definitely can tell she's been alive for a while. And so yeah, that's what I've found. Right now, it's easier to tame the older mouse. I say within the first week, she'll let me pet her, and so I'm pretty excited on that. I'm hoping to catch more. At this point, they're figured out that I'm capturing them. So I have to change my traps again and move them into different areas because they have learned that I'm trapping them. So that's what I got going on. That's the progress that I found. And like I stated in my last video, I am blogging about it as well with pictures. I'm going to be moving the location of the enclosure. And once I move the location of the enclosure, I'll start showing it. I haven't changed the bedding yet because originally I had a turtle. I don't know if I can't remember if I explained this in my last video or not, but originally I had a turtle, and when I got rid of the turtle, I just didn't get the dirt out of there, and so I haven't changed it to a more comfortable bedding for them at the moment. But it doesn't really seem to be bothering them too much to have dirt in there. But once I transport it and everything, I will show. I just don't know when I'm going to be able to get the bedding part, because money is tight right now to swap it over. And plus it's going to be really, really difficult because this is a 55-gallon tank. So it's going to be like take a lot to get it cleaned out, and I'm still waiting. I let my neighbor borrow a smaller, I think it's like a 10-gallon tank or a 5-gallon tank. It's one of them two. I let him borrow that for temporarily, and she still hasn't cleaned it up to give it back to me. And at this point, I'm thinking of just like telling her, "You don't worry about it, just give it back to me. I'll clean it." So then I will be able to actually have the possibility to clean the cage, because right now I have no way to clean it because I can't put them in anything else. And down the road I'll be getting more, because obviously I'm going to need more enclosures to do the rest of my study, because I will be getting pet store mice and then breeder mice, because this is a big experiment, because I'm doing multiple things. It's not just focusing on one thing. And I'm also going to get another tank for wild mice, because right now the tank, the feeding mechanism, the watering mechanism I'm doing right now for this tank, which will always stay the same. I'm not going to change it. As I'm scavenging the food, and then they have a water hole like they would in the, like they could, in the wild, I guess you could say. So I got that set up. And then the other one where I'll have wild mice in is going to have food bowls, and the food is only going to go in the bowls, and then a water bottle. And to see the differences of it's mainly for a theory, because scientists have stated that appearances of mice started changing with them being around, and when they were observing mice that were in a barn. And I'm not 100% sure if they were feeding them, but if they were just simply observing. So I believe it's through the normal evolution as animals that, like birds, if they eat berries and run out of food, and they have to eat harder things, their beaks will get bigger, sharper, or vice versa. If they start eating berries instead of nuts, their beaks will get smaller over time of generations. It does, so I'm going to see, but over time, if with the human interaction, because their theory, theirs was not, it was just them observing, no interaction. So I'm going to see with human interaction on both variables, if they both end up over time having the babies come, the next generations come out the same, or if one or the other keeps its features, or if they change in different ways. If the ones who scavenge with their nose stays long, or so on. I'm also curious on the color variations as well. Curious on that, because they also say that their coats started changing, and they started getting like white spots or white scuffs here and there. So I'm curious on that too, with my actual interaction, because I am interacting with the mice, because the main thing was taming a wild mouse, and then taking different, like from mice from breeders or mice from a pet store, and showing the taming process, because every mouse you get, you have to tame, even from a pet store. It has not been often that I got mice from the pet store that were like completely tamed. They were more tame than a wild mouse, but I still had to chase them around to get them out. I could, they wouldn't come to my hand. They wouldn't like investigate me. They would hide, just like these mice are doing. So I'm going to show the differences and the time frames from each mouse, and each mouse is different. Like with Bean does not come to me at all. And you would think that being a baby mouse, that Bean would be more trustworthy of a human, because they don't really, they haven't really had too many experiences with humans. But Bean is not, she doesn't hate me. Her ears are not all the way back when I'm around, but they are halfway up, while Bubbles' ears are straight up, and she will even like look at me. Like if I'm sitting there, and talking to her, she'll look like straight at me and watch everything I do. Like there was a time, like earlier today, Bubbles was at the watering hole. I walk in the room and notice her, and I'm like, oh, come up, to the glass, and I'm like, hey, trying to talk to Bubbles, and Bubbles comes up to the glass, so I decided, I'll put my finger on the glass, and Bubbles puts her hands there, and we're looking at each other, so I decided to give her a treat. I grabbed the treat bag, and at this point, Bean would have ran. Bean would have ran as fast as she could and hid and not come back out for a while. Bubbles sat there. I got the treat out, showed it through the glass to show her what I'm doing. She put her paw back up and looked at it as if she was like trying to smell through the grass. Or glass, not grass, sorry. But trying to smell through it. And now when she ran is when I went to open the cage to hand her treat. So she ran and hid in this, you know, the small little fish hole that for fishies to swim through. And I just dropped it in front of her and walked out the room. So definitely having more progress with the older one, who I barely had, will compare to being I've had for a few days. So this is interesting. I'm really hoping to get other older, you know, other mice of different ages, other babies, other olders, to see if it's, you know, the chances of it, if Bubbles is just a rare occurrence, or if it's a 50-50, or so on. But that is what I got for today, and I will probably do another video tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. I don't know if I'm gonna do it every day, so stay tuned.